building today with us.
What's up? It's your #1 Coke Boy Chinx, one of the hottest upcoming artists in New York right now.
He was 10 times better than me.
He goes, Chanel, who are these people here for? I'm like, they're for you.
When you ask the streets who's the hottest bar for bar, look for look, that's me, bro.
Rapper Lionel Pickens, known professionally as the rapper Chinx, is dead. Gunned down on a Queen Street.
If Chinx was alive, Chinx would be top 5.
An up-and-coming star who was working on becoming nationally known.
Everybody that Chinx was supposed to be with that night, he wasn't with.
He and his 27-year-old passenger were shot.
They were following him.
They hunted Chinx down.
Police tonight are searching for the gunman.
It did make sense.
Who shot them and why?
7 years later, we're still fighting because it's not closed yet.
As of 2022, there's been a staggering number of well-known or established rappers who've been murdered.
Deserve to be treated like a regular citizen.
The families need closure and justice.
I'm not interested in a kumbaya. Somebody died. It's just too late.
I'm Van Lathan, and I'm on a mission to dig into cases that seem to have been neglected or abandoned and shed light on the stories and the people so they aren't forgotten.
50 Cent, why did you feel like you had to make this show?
We're not attempting to solve a crime that's been solved.
I got you. We're asking questions and trying to get answers.
We'll track down never-before-heard eyewitnesses and expose internet rumors.
So everybody was just pointing fingers because nobody had the answers.
And to get to the one thing that lets people have justice and closure. And that one thing is the truth.
They took a jewel away from us. I want the truth to be ours.
This is Hip Hop Homicides.
From far Rockaway, New York City, give me up right now for Chinx.
Always see me with a couple hitters, getting money with a couple hitters, burning up the spot. The club we made.
By 2015, Lionel Pickens, better known by his rap name Chinx, was well on his way to rap superstardom.
Chinx is an acronym for coward-hearted individuals never exist.
Chinx had started rapping when he was in high school, where he met Stack Bundles, and the two good friends joined together and started a crew called the Riot Squad.
The Riot Squad boys is what it is, man.
6 years later, in 2011, Chinx ended up signing with one of the biggest names in hip-hop, French Montana. He became a part of his Coke Boys imprint and movement. 4 years later, Chinx had already done some songs with some of the biggest names in all of music. Jeremiah, Ace Hood, Nipsey Hussle, Jadakiss. He had worked with all of them.
And definitely, hands down, one of the hottest upcoming artists in New York right now.
If you want to say the hottest, if you feel that way.
Of course, I'm the hottest.
A lot of people in the music industry thought that his charismatic nature, his crazy adaptive wordplay, and his overall ear for melody were all gonna come together and end up making him a household name. Until his life was unfortunately cut short at the age of 31. In the early morning hours of May 17th, 2015, Chinx was followed home and gunned down. Shot 11 times at point-blank range as he drove home with a friend. He left behind a wife and 2 children.
To help us break down the case, we've enlisted ex-NYPD detective Derek Parker, the founder of the Hip Hop Police, an NYPD Special Forces unit formed to monitor the hip-hop community in direct response to the Tupac and Biggie murders.
What I know about the Chinx murder, Lionel Pickens Jr., was that he was coming from a place called the Red Wolf Inn in Brooklyn. He was traveling in his Porsche to Queens, and he stopped in the Briar section of Jamaica, and he was shot through the window of his car.
Were they tailing him?
They were following him. They were following him from the location that he was at, because remember, most of these guys put on social media where they're gonna be. So if you're an adversary, oh, he's gonna be at this concert hall tonight. I'll wait for him to come out. That area was very desolate. There weren't a lot of people around, not a lot of cameras.
Hip-hop artist Chinx was on the brink of major stardom when he was shot and killed in 2015. Now, more than 2.5 years later, the NYPD has made 2 arrests. 32-year-old Quincy Homer and 26-year-old Jamar Hill. They were arraigned on murder and other charges and pleaded not guilty.
How do you find out exactly why something like that happens in trying to solve some of these crimes?
Jamal Hill and Quincy Homer, they were already incarcerated in other crimes. And the detectives took several months to gather a lot of information on them.
What about his alleged killer? What can you tell me about Quincy Humere?
He was an up-and-coming rapper himself. They were at a concert hall there in Philadelphia. He had words with Chinx. It was an old beef. He was upset about that.
Murder suspect Quincy Humere still maintains his innocence and is currently awaiting trial. His alleged accomplice, Jamar Hill, cooperated with detectives and is reportedly negotiating a plea deal. So I need to figure out, why did the defendants allegedly follow and hunt down a rising star? Could this have been an orchestrated hit? What was the nature of the alleged beef that authorities say resulted in Chinx's death? And what could have happened at a concert in Philadelphia that led to a murder? I'm headed to Far Rockaway in Queens to visit with Chinx's mother, Veronica Clinton, and find out more about his upbringing, as well as to get her perspective on what she thinks was behind his murder.
What was he like as a kid?
Wow. He was so smart. He was dangerous with a pencil. So he writes some stuff, and it meant something.
Even from the beginning?
Even from the beginning as a child.
Right. Were you a hip-hop fan? Did you like rap music?
Oh, my hip-hop music, not your hip-hop. I got in his car one night. He was taking me to the bank, playing his hot, whatever, 97. He said, "Ma, that's me." I looked at him, I said, "Huh?" I said, "Oh, I'm sorry, because it all sounds the same."
Do you feel like you got to say goodbye to him properly?
No. I didn't even, no. I miss my boy every day. There's not a day that go by that I don't speak to. Even when I go to sleep, he's my angel.
Do you feel like any of his friends were maybe leading him on a path that you didn't want him to go on?
As he got in junior high school, they started meeting other children, and they started spreading their wings, and I like for you to be in front of me. I don't want to be looking for nobody.
Right. Were you in any way afraid for Chinx because you were?
I'm gonna be honest with you, my son was using drugs a little too much. The drugs was controlling my child, and he wasn't paying attention what was going on in the streets.
Wow. You feel like they got the right guy for it?
I'm not gonna sit and say that gentleman was connected to his murder, because I didn't see that young man do it. You understand? And in my heart, I don't feel he did that. Because they've been trying to shoot at him for years. But that was about like the third or fourth time. And the other young man was nowhere in the picture. It was, I couldn't tell you who.
I'm surprised to hear that Veronica doesn't think the police have arrested the right guys. That is definitely something I need to explore. Like many rappers, Chinx's roots were in the streets, something that most mothers won't talk about.
Everybody know about Far Rockaway, but not everybody's welcome.
So we are going to talk to Chinx's younger brother, Aaron, and his childhood friend, 40, guys that can help us understand his street origins.
Where did the name Chinx Drugs come from? Because it was Chinx Drugs when he first started out, and then he went to Chinx.
Well, Chinx Drugs came from, like, when we were younger, like, we was, like, really selling drugs. As he got into music and started being successful, he's looking at me like, yo, all right, now stop.
That tells you that he wasn't gonna be up in the rap game,
Exactly.
and you see him still getting in trouble.
He really left it alone years before he started rapping, but, you know, it's still that needed to be paid for. That's from the streets.
How deep into the street was he?
As deep as any kid in the ghetto would be. Where we grow up at, it's not too much opportunity.
Not too much from where we come
You know what I'm saying?
Tell us about Far Rockaway.
Me and my brother grew up in Edgemere Projects.
Okay.
So, like, those projects is like one of the toughest projects in Far Rockaway.
Coming out of Far Rockaway.
Well, you know, Far Rockaway is one of those places that you don't go unless you have a reason to be there.
No, please, not.
Unless you got business there, family there, why
like,
you there?
Don't go over there asking for nobody.
Nope.
Just stay away, you know what I'm saying? Like,
what do you think about the fact that he was literally on the verge of rap stardom and then somebody took his life?
You know how unfortunate that is? It's like the lottery pick. That crushed me so crazy because me and my brother was closer to me and my mom. Losing him was like, damn, like I lost everything. Like,
yeah.
And I was just so happy to be able to, I got a visit from him a week before that. Because I had just caught a parole violation around that time.
I want to know what it was like for you being locked up whenever that happened, man.
I remember when his best friend, Stack Bundles, had passed away when he was in jail.
What up? Chinx drugs, stack bundles.
In 2007, Stack Bundles was gunned down in the lobby of his apartment building in Far Rockaway. To this day, the murder remains unsolved. He was 24 years old.
I never understood what he felt when he was like, yo, I'm in there, I can't do nothing. Man. And I get this bad phone call.
Right.
And it's like nothing you could do.
You can't even hug nobody.
There's nobody to hug in there. You know how bad I wanted to cry, you can't even cry because I'm around 60 men. You can't even grieve the right way in that.
Did y'all have any thoughts on who did it?
He wasn't into no heavy beef.
Never nothing serious.
I feel like they got the right guy.
Honestly, like, I don't even know who that guy is.
He never mentioned to you that he had beef with that guy or anything like that?
Never.
So it wasn't something where he was like tensed up thinking somebody was looking for him?
I remember being locked up and somebody saying that he asked for a vest before he passed away. I don't know if he just want to be cautious.
And then the night he died, like, he called everybody. Like, we always supposed to go out with him that night. Usually it's a whole mob. Everybody's out, like, you know what I'm saying?
And that was weird to me.
Phone, that was weird.
Like, I'm like, yo, who the was with him?
Yeah, like.
Because if none of y'all was with him, what the was going on?
You just start looking at everybody that's around Chinx. Like, yo, did it come from here? Did it come from security? Did he argue with somebody that night? Is this somebody we got beef with?
Everybody gets the side eye because you just don't know.
Were you there?
I was there. I know they were in a room and it got loud.
I'm in New York investigating the murder of rapper Chinx, who was hunted down in Queens in 2015. Initial reporting revealed that there was another person in Chinx's Porsche that night who survived.
Hello.
Nikki.
Yes, Dan, what do you got for me?
I got two things for you. I just talked to Chinx's brother and one of his friends, and they said that none of the inner circle that Chinx normally rolled with were with him the night that he got murdered. Somebody different. Who was in the car with him that night?
This guy, Yemen Cheese, his real name is Antar El-Ziad. He's an up-and-coming rapper at the time. He also got shot, though, that night and survived. There's a lot of hate that gets thrown at him and some accusations, rumors. It's usually online. You know, they sometimes blame him for Chinx's death.
Really?
Yeah. He's also been dragged into it, even though he was also a victim.
We definitely need to talk to him.
All right, well, I'll try to track him down for you.
One more thing. There's so much mystery about the case itself. Is there any way you can get me with a detective who investigated the crime? Is anyone that would have some inside information about the investigation, where it took them and what it was that they could do? Anyone like that, Nikki, would be great.
All right, Dan, I'm on it.
All right, thank you.
Yemen Cheese is the only one who can give us a first-hand account of what happened that night. And we can ask him if he knows why there have been so many accusations on social media. But for now, we need to keep digging into Chinx's past to see if there is a connection between his time on the streets and his death. So we're meeting up with Janelle Carqueras, Chinx's widow, and someone who has known him since he was 18 years old. What was it like for you when he was in the streets?
Very scary. That was something that I feared a lot. Like when he got locked up the first time, police came through my door at 5 o'clock in the morning. So that was the last thing I wanted to ever have to go through again, especially with children in the house.
So what years were you gone? From about 2005 to about 2009. I'm home now, man, blessed.
We actually got married when he was in prison.
What was that like?
Difficult at 18 years old, going to see someone in prison every single week. I did it for about 3 years. Then we hit a bump in the road. And I didn't see him for about a year. And then he came home and we said we was gonna figure it out.
What kind of growth did you see in him when he got home?
A lot. Super focused. I mean, immediately it was straight to music. His number one thing was I would never go back to jail.
Throughout everything that you guys were going through, y'all stayed together. It seems like y'all had a pretty amazing bond.
It wasn't all peaches and cream. Like, we went through a lot. But we were two children trying to be adults in a crazy world. In the environment that he was living in, how much can you stay on the right track? But before he passed away, we were actually working on our relationship. I feel like we were robbed of that. My children was robbed of that.
What would give you closure?
There's no way to get closure on this. There's no way to accept what's happened.
The night he was killed, he was with a gentleman by the name of Chinx.
Right.
Did you know him?
Actually had met him for the first time with his wife and his children.
What did you think about people pointing fingers?
When you don't know anything, everything kind of grabs your attention. Everybody gets the side eye because you just don't know.
Do you think they got the right person?
Me personally, going to every court date, talking to every detective, I believe they're in the right direction. They found out there was a situation between Chinx and the accused suspect.
You're talking about Quincy Humera.
They had an altercation in jail, and they ran into each other backstage at a show, and some words were exchanged. What in the world could have sparked so much hatred in somebody to want to do that? There's just no reason good enough.
Chinx's wife, Janelli, just made the connection between Chinx's stint in prison and his alleged killer, Quincy Humera. Now we have to figure out how that prison beef spilled over into his music career.
On our way right now to talk to somebody who was very important in the life of Chinx, French Montana. When French's career was blowing up and Chinx still remained a celebrated but unknown commodity, French Montana decided to sign Chinx to his Coke Boys collective.
He also performed with Chinx at the Philadelphia concert where Quincy and Chinx exchanged words. Maybe he can help shed some light on what happened.
I remember the moment I heard the name French Montana, it was like, boom, sizzling, you out of here.
Yeah.
Coke Boys movement really becomes what we know it to be today. Tell us how you met Chinx.
Man, I met Chinx in Yonkers. He used to come around the studio, this man, humble, quiet, just sit there and observe. I start hearing his music, and I'm like, oh, he got something.
At that point, when Chinx was coming in, was he like a street dude coming into hip-hop?
Yeah, he had just came home from jail.
Yeah.
He trying to get into the music, and he was serious.
What made him stand out to you as a rapper?
He loved music. That's what me and him have most in common. Music was like our therapy. To get away from the hood and just lock in the studio for like 3 days at a time.
So he was a pretty dedicated worker.
He knew what it took. He knew how to switch his flows up. He knew how to adapt. He was 10 times better than me because he's seen all my mistakes. He was like the better version. Man, if Chinx was alive, Chinx would be top 5.
We're gonna blow this bitch off the roof.
There apparently was some sort of concert that took place in Philly where Quincy Humera and him had a run-in.
Yeah.
Do you remember anything that happened there?
Me and Chinx used to be so drunk doing our shows.
Right.
And I think that was part of the reasons why I even stopped drinking like that, because I seen a lot of death around me, you know? But I don't remember him doing none of that. I don't know who this guy is.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But I don't know none of that. It's one of the things that I regret. It was not making Chinx stay with me in LA. You know, we was just getting drunk, high, and somebody just talked him into coming back to New York. So Chinx like, yo, I'm out. I'm like, yo, bro, you're not going nowhere. You're coming with me to Coachella. So we got into a little argument. But instead of me just like, yo, nah, you staying with me, I wish I had pushed the extra mile, you know what I'm saying, make him see the bigger picture. You know, so he went back to New York, and whatever happened to him the week right after.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's one of the things that I regret.
Did Chinx ever tell you about any beef he had with Quincy Humera?
We don't speak about who we got problems with. So when everything happened to Chinx for like 2 years, we didn't know if that was for me, if that was for somebody. Like, we didn't know what was going on. Everybody was like paranoid, like, where did this come from?
Yeah, because you didn't see it.
I didn't see it coming. And Chinx didn't see it coming because he wouldn't be in a hookah spot like that till 5 in the morning. You just start looking at everybody that's around Chinx. Did it come from this? Did it come from that? Who was with him that night? Did he argue with somebody that night? Is this somebody we got beef with? Nobody knew.
French Montana didn't have much to add about what actually went down at the Philly concert. But he wasn't the only one there that night. That's why I'm meeting with Biggs, Chinx's manager. I'm hoping he can fill in some of the blanks and see if he knows anything about Chinx, the man in the car with Chinx the night of the murder.
As an artist, what was he like?
He was somebody that was determined to make it. You know, his wordplay was incredible. And as cool and debonair as he was, he understood where he came from. He was basically saying, I came from the bottom. Yeah, I sold drugs. His name was Chinx Drugs. And when we started to take things professionally, he dropped the drugs.
Yeah, y'all know Chinx Drugs, the Coke Boy fam.
No more drugs.
Oh, no more drugs?
Just Chinx.
Did dropping the drugs also coincide with him leaving a certain street life behind as well?
Absolutely.
Did he ever mention to you of any beefs he might have had on the street or anybody that might have wanted to harm him?
The funny thing with Chinx is you never seen him fight or argue with anybody.
What happened at the concert in Philadelphia between Chinx and Quincy Humera, the man?
I don't know. It was so many people at that concert. That was an event that we did with French, and I know they were in a room, and it got loud. It didn't trickle over to the point that it ever reached my desk in the sense that management was concerned or security was concerned.
But it wasn't a situation to where everybody knew, be on the lookout for this guy because he had some kind of issue?
Not never.
Did Chinx ever speak to you about his relationship with him?
No.
Ever bring him up at all?
No. Apparently, it went way deeper than anybody close to him ever knew because there's no circumstance that could warrant you saying, okay, this was justified.
The man that was in the car, Yim and Cheese, how well do you know him?
He was the last person that I would expect to be with Chinx.
Why is that?
Because he wasn't an everyday. Everybody that Chinx was supposed to be with that night, everybody that would have been strapped, he wasn't with. Viking, Bino, me, his security, license to carry. Didn't make sense.
Because it didn't make sense, did any thoughts ever crawl in your mind?
When it went down, like, you questioned every friendship, every foe, every argument, every misunderstanding. You question it all.
Right.
Because it just doesn't make sense.
Shots just went off. But I felt something go in my ribs. Felt blood, and the shots was ringing. Boom, 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 boom.
I'm digging into the mystery of Chinx's murder. What motivated someone to hunt him down? So I'm meeting up with one of Chinx's oldest friends, Viking, someone who knew Chinx both on the streets and in the music industry.
Tell me about your relationship with Chinx.
Me and Chinx go back since like 98, 99. His moms moved to Edgemere, projects where I'm from.
It was like a brotherhood with you.
Yeah.
When did it start to happen where people knew the name Chinx?
Stack Buzz started before Chinx Buzz.
Okay.
So Stack was going crazy, Chinx was still locked up.
Wow.
But Stack always kept Chinx's name alive. So when Chinx come home, he just heated up.
Right.
And they was running the city when I came home.
Yeah. What do you feel like New York hip-hop lost when Chinx died?
They lost a legend, man. It's a hard pill to swallow, man. That was my heart.
Did you know the man that was in the car with Chinx?
Yeah, my man Yemen.
What did you think about people coming out and saying, oh man, he must have had something to do with it?
Was whack, and they were too much of a brothers. Why would he do that to him?
You feel like they got the right guy for it?
I'm not gonna sit here and put that on. I don't know. I'm a street dude at the end of the day.
Of course.
So I can't just say, like, yeah, they got him. Nah, I ain't doing that. Wherever it stems from, it's still hate and jealousy. No matter if it's inside or outside. That was some real coward hate and did to him.
Quincy Humera was an aspiring rap artist. I want to know whether or not that played into his alleged run-in with Chinx at the Philadelphia concert. So we're linking up with Chanel, Chinx's publicist, began working with him as his career began to take off. How close was Chinx to becoming a household name or a rap star?
Oh, he was gonna go. So we were releasing CR4 in Midtown for a listening party. And the minute Chinx pulls up, he's like, what the hell is going on? He goes, Chanel, the line is around the block. Who are these people here for? I'm like, they're for you.
Wow.
Like, people are sneaking into this event. That's CR4. That's not even the album. That's still mixtape level.
Right. So he was right there.
Right there.
And then it was all kind of taken away.
It was all taken away.
Did you ever give any thought to who might have done it?
Not at all. I don't think about it because the result is still the same. My friend is still gone.
Do you know anything about the altercation between Quincy Humera and Chinx at the Philadelphia concert?
I've only heard that the person had approached him and Chinx kind of brushed him off.
We go to April 24th, 2015 in this back room at the Soundgarden, which I've seen pictures of. Chinx is there, French is there, there's different rappers, Quincy is there. Quincy, the accused shooter, was also trying to be a rapper himself under the name Quality.
Chinx wasn't the type of guy to just try to stun on somebody like.
No, absolutely not. Chinx go that extra mile just to do something for someone else.
This was a crime fueled by jealousy, where Quincy Homer, he's trying to get his own rap career going, and he sees Chinx really starting to blow up.
It's just a constant reminder of the jealousy that is out there in the world. Every time you go out in this business, you meet a bunch of people that want something. You know, I have the next artist, or no, I am the next artist, and whatnot. And I think people get so offended when they think you're not receptive to that energy.
Was Quincy Homer jealous of Chinx's success? Maybe we can uncover a motive if we learn the details from that fateful night. I've been able to score an interview with Yemen Cheese, the only person in the car with Chinx when he was gunned down, and the only survivor. He hasn't publicly spoken with anyone about what went down that night for 7 years, since immediately after it happened.
A drive-by passed and ambushed us and started shooting up the car. Feeling very devastated. I'm really hurt.
Since then, he's been a target on social media from fans around the world, many blaming him for Chinx's death.
I want to talk to you a little bit about your relationship with Chinx and like what went on that night from your perspective. First of all, tell me, how well did you know Chinx?
Basically, I was running around with French at the time, and I built my own little record label. That's where me and Chinx really got close, because he wanted to help me with my artists. We was a crew all together. Like, he's from Far Rock, I'm from Harlem, French from the Bronx. We all, when we get together in the studio, we get together in the club.
Chinx drugs, my man. Yo, I need a ticket.
Hello, thank you, come again.
I know this is not something that's the easiest thing to talk about, but take us through the events of what happened that night.
What happened that night?
Yeah.
We get in front of the club. I told him, tell him we're gonna go through the back, because I want to bring my drink in, because I don't drink alcohol, I drink lean.
Yeah.
The energy was perfect in there. It was a good vibe. We left 3 o'clock. His security told them, let's go to an after-hour spot. We get in front of the spot was closed. Everybody was leaving out. There was no third person, it's just me and him.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm gonna just take you to my crib. You could take a cab from my crib. I'm like, all right. We drove for 10, 15 minutes. Mind you, I'm hired up. I'm sipping lean, I'm lit. He's lit too. We listening to his album. We're not paying attention about nothing. He's just driving. I think he stopped at a light, and shots just went off. But I felt something go in my ribs. I felt blood, and the shots was ringing. Boom, 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 boom. The shots were so close, he jumped right on top of me. Like 2 shots that went through him, went through me too. All I heard is, drove off. I looked up, nobody was there. He like, yo, get us out of here. He couldn't move, so.
He was still alive?
Yeah, he was still alive. He's like, get us out of here. So I turned the wheel with one hand. When I turned the wheel, the car started moving. I turned. When I turned, I hit a parked car. When I hit the parked car, I jumped out to get some help. So I see police or lights or whatever. I stopped them. I'm talking to them. They trying to ask me questions. I'm like, my friend in there is dead. Please, I need help. Take us to the hospital. I'm dying. So they took me in on the ambulance. That's the last time I remember in the ambulance.
Passed out.
Passed out.
Everyone's wondering, did you have something to do with it?
He didn't follow him. He hunted Chinx down.
I cannot stress how important this interview is.
Chinx was like one of my closest friends, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It was never about the music. I invested hundreds of thousands, and I haven't made $1 of Chinx. I just wanted to see my brother glow. I tried to help every young artist. From the Schmurder when they came out, from Pop Smoke, I was talking to them, thought I was preaching. Because I always go by this code in my life. People don't go to your funeral for how many Grammys you got. People go to your funeral for what you did for them.
I'm investigating the murder of rapper Chinx, and I'm speaking with Yemen Cheese, the only survivor in the car that night, but whom many online blamed for Chinx's death.
Some people that we've talked to have said that it was a little weird that you were with him in the car.
Chinx called me, want to come out? Got a little spot in Brooklyn. He called me, yo, you coming? Ain't nobody coming with me. I'm like, damn. So I had no choice, so I went.
Why do you feel like members of his crew weren't with him that night?
He was like, we have a video shoot tomorrow in Jersey. Some of the guys that rode with him all the time lived in Jersey. So they like, there's no point going back to the city. Just me and him.
Everyone's wondering, did you have something to do with it?
I don't know nothing. Because people keep saying I'm trying to hide something. I don't know nothing. What y'all want me to tell you? I'm gonna keep telling y'all the same thing. My story, that I didn't see nothing. I didn't see anything. Like, I told them everything they need to know.
Antar says he gave investigators everything he knows.
I'm a victim, too.
How many times were you shot?
Twice.
Where at?
Right here and right here. And then in the hospital, I'm going through all of this drama. Everybody think I set him up.
On social media, how many messages were you saying that you...
Oh my God, I had to change my name because I was getting so much hate and so much followers. I done blocked probably 5,000 to 6,000 people.
Damn.
I still get the hate messages, threats, all that to today. It came out already. They got caught. I don't have nothing to do with it. Why? I'm still getting that. After all of that, I left. I went to the mountains and got away.
Had you known that there was some sort of beef, do you think you would have been in the car that night?
I would have been in the car, but we would have been on point. Hell yeah, I would have went with him. I would have been not drinking lean, lacking, looking all stupid.
And how close did you come to losing your life?
They said it was 85%. This is right here, right next to my heart. One around my heart, just like that.
Why would people think that you would have a reason to do anything to him?
Because I survived.
Yeah, you survived, but you were shot twice.
Yeah. That's the fact, but they don't think that.
Yemen Cheese has never been arrested or charged with anything related to Chinx's murder, and there is absolutely no reason to think he had anything to do with it. Sadly, this injustice, blaming innocent people without evidence, is all too common in the online world where anonymity festers false bravado and accountability is absent. Because this case has yet to go to trial, people are reluctant to speak on camera about the case. That's why this next interview is crucial.
I cannot stress how important this interview is. Rarely do we get to talk to a detective, a member of law enforcement that was on the actual case that we are covering.
I'm about to sit down with ex-NYPD Detective Richard Rudolph to get his insight.
How were you directly involved with the case of Lionel Pickens, better known as Chinx?
I was Lieutenant Commander. I was the Queens Homicide Squad. I supervised and managed the entire investigation. This case was complex from the beginning. There was really no video around that location, no eyewitnesses, and Chinx was our only lead that we had.
What helped you break it open?
Yeah, so our biggest lead happened 5 months later. Quincy Homer is pulled over by the police. They were smoking marijuana. They're all arrested, and they recover a .45 caliber pistol. Quincy is interviewed by the detectives, and he proceeds to say that he knows 2 guys that killed Chinx. We set up what's called a proffer interview, and he's gonna tell us everything he knows about Chinx. Sure enough, he doesn't show up for court, so Quincy's on the run. Turns out the reason he didn't show up for court is that they did a bank robbery in Hempstead, Long Island. Quincy is ID'd. From that, we got Quincy's cell phone number and another cell phone that he was using. Sure enough, Quincy's number was at the scene where Chinx was in Brooklyn, giving a concert.
Wow.
and up in Queens at the hookah bar and at the murder site.
So he was following him?
He didn't follow him. They hunted Chinx down. Quincy and Jamel Hill, the night of the murder. They go on Instagram, find out Chinx is gonna be performing that night. Quincy comes up with a plan. So they're taking 2 cars out to Brooklyn. They get to the club, Chinx is getting in his car with Yemen Cheese, and they're leaving. And they follow him all the way up to Queens. The Camry stops, Chinx can't get out. He comes up behind him. Quincy comes out with a 9mm with extended magazine, pumps 12 rounds into him. We find out that Chinx and Quincy had some kind of beef. We get this from an ex-girlfriend of Quincy. She tells us that Quincy hates Chinx because they were in jail together and Chinx beat up Quincy. And really all he did was tell the CO, say, well, who did this to you? And he's like, Chinx did this to me. So he's labeled a rat. Fast forward a little bit, there's a rap concert in Philadelphia. So Quincy's there. And in the beginning, he gets up on stage and Chinx tells the other guys, hey, he's a rat, get this guy away from me. They actually just kick him off stage. Quincy obviously leaves all mad. He just feels like he's been blackballed and it's because of Chinx. Like Chinx is now, he's becoming somebody and Quincy's not. He thinks it's because Chinx is keeping him down. His career should be just as good as Chinx.
So your motive is jealousy, envy, stemming from something that happened years ago?
Yeah.
I spoke to Chinx's mother. She says she doesn't think that the cops have the right guy for this. What are the chances that she's right?
When we get rich, we have the mentality of, I made it, everybody's happy for me. So we still be around the same places, not knowing that somebody's right behind you ready to stab you in his back.
In our investigation into Chinx's death, we finally uncovered an alleged motive for why Quincy Humaire would want to kill Chinx. And we are talking to ex-NYPD detective Richard Rudolph about the details of the case.
I spoke to Chinx's mother. She says she doesn't think that the cops have the right guy for this. What are the chances that she's right, that Quincy Humaire is not the shooter?
Yeah, I know she's hurt and she lost her son, you know, but that's 0% chance. I mean, the night of the murder, there's 4 people directly involved. We get statements from 3 out of 4 of them. Quincy didn't make a statement to us yet. And everything that they said was 100% verified. I just take one piece of the puzzle, put it together until I get here. I got them on video at the club. I got them video in Queens. We recover the GPS device. So now we have exactly the cars leaving Queens, up Long Island Expressway, down to BQE, and then we watch both cars driving back up to Queens.
You essentially watched the entire murder happen.
Virtually.
Virtually.
Chinx's car starts to roll out into Queens Boulevard. While that car is going, Quincy actually makes a U-turn, drives up to the car and says, yo, man, you all right? You all right in there? And they drive away real fast. So
why do you do that?
Make sure the job was done. They wanted this kid dead.
Quincy was the lone shooter.
Lone shooter.
He hasn't been tried yet. Why hasn't he been tried yet?
Just the wheels of justice, I couldn't tell you. The other guys all took pleas. They all proffered. So that was they all testified in grand jury. So they are done. I don't know.
Did they testify against Quincy?
They did. Yeah.
So anyone who thinks it was anybody other than Quincy Humaire is mistaken.
Yeah, that's absolutely, these guys did it.
There's been no conviction in Chinx's death yet, and in this country, everyone is innocent until proven guilty. But Detective Rudolph has laid out the case against Quincy Humaire and the way in which law enforcement went about ascertaining who was responsible for Chinx's death is pretty watertight. And I personally think they have the right people. But we're hoping they can bring some closure to the families, to the mother, to the children, to the friends of Chinx that haven't had that closure just yet. In the end, Chinx wasn't able to shake his past. As his career careened, he never knew that a fatal jealousy may have been festering. When I talked to French Montana, he had some thoughts he wanted to share for all the young rappers starting their journey.
I think that most of us, when we get rich, we have the mentality of, I made it, everybody's happy for me. Because everybody's clapping for you, everybody's giving you this face that they're happy for you, but everybody's broke down on the inside because you was picked out of the bunch, you know what I'm saying? So we don't see that. So we still be around the same places not knowing that somebody's right behind you ready to stab you in your back. The greatest threat is from the inside, always. That's the advice that I give to artists. Everybody's not happy for you. When you get your money, get up out of there. You'll know the ones that's happy for you. Keep them close.
We're in Queens right now on our way to commemorate, honor, and remember Chinx on the anniversary of his death. It's the 7th anniversary of his death today. And on this day, the community gathers at the murder scene to just remember what it was that they lost and the cultural weight of what Chinx meant to Queens. What does it mean to you that all of this energy and all of this love for your husband, every year people are out here faithfully?
It's been 7 years now, and every time we come out here, it's always a great amount of love that pours out the whole week.
The strength that y'all give me make me come back next year. How about that?
His life meant something to people. Like, he impacted people.
He sure did. And I come out every year too.
Every year.
To thank everybody that come out here. That makes me feel real good. I'm not alone.
He had something to say, and he had more than just witty ways to say it. He left you with things that taught you how to be a better man. You know, it wasn't all bad. Everybody think that because we start in the streets or you start from drugs that it can't ever turn around, and that's not the case. You know, you could turn a negative into a positive, and he was proof of that.
For something like this, I'm looking around, and it's an occasion that's obviously something that was sad that happened, but I don't see a lot of people frowning, right? It seems like y'all are celebrating right now.
Yeah, because you know why?
So if he was here and people was crying,
he might, you a son.
Yeah. So we're gonna go ahead and give him a memorial for y'all boy. He seemed like he touched a lot of lives. So let's go ahead and light him up.
In the beginning, it was hard. I'm not gonna lie. I couldn't even listen to his music in the beginning because you would just cry. Like, it was just hard. I have his whole face tatted on my back. I don't think he's ever gonna go anywhere. You know, when you're kids and you go through life together, you know, that's not something that you just let go of.
Right.